Here we are. Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me today to talk about bringing a little perspective to our lives. So let's get started. If you like what you hear today, please leave a like and tell your friends and send me a message. I apologize for missing last week. Technical and then scheduling issues persisted just throughout the whole week. However, I can personally confirm that there are still large areas of the U.S. without essentially any cell coverage whatsoever. I was up in northern Vermont actually for a class I was spoken about, and turns out there's rather large sections that have very minimal coverage. So that kind of just made a mess of things. But kind of humorously, the planned topic was focus, and so while I was able to focus and focus rather intently, it wasn't quite in the way I had anticipated. Again, I apologize. But this week, a more relevant topic may be perspective. And I'm actually not going to talk about the second major war that's currently underway because, well, something funny happens, unusual happens when a problem is huge. Because big problems seem easy to solve. Let me say that again because I probably didn't pick that up. Big problems seem easy to solve because they're so big you can't really see the details. And the details are where the difficulties really lay. You see this often when people are faced with a difficult problem or a solution that isn't working well, particularly a solution. Their first thought is to make the solution even more complex and not simpler. But perspective applies to every last little thing in our own individual lives as much as it does world-level situations. This has been running around in my mind since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which, as it happens, started 600 days ago. So that's February 24th, 2022. So we often talk about envisionment and we talk about manifestation. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. And the reality is it's far easier to envision a positive future when you're not under siege and not living when you are living in a free and wealthy nation. And I'm reminded of this often when I'm around many of my friends, because I'm fortunate I have good income in my area and it's kind of rare around here. And so listening to them reminds me to be, really thankful at a lot of different levels. And this isn't definitely about, oh, well, you should be happy because it could be worse. It's not that sort of thinking at all, far from it. But it's easy to forget the obvious, namely the life that we're living every single day. And there's a lot of good things for most of us in our lives. And we tend to imagine that everyone else has it better than we do. And I'm sure there's a medical term for that attitude. And I know there is. I can't think of what it is, but they have a term for everything. But it's really part of mindfulness is really looking outside yourself and really seeing all the positive things that you have in your life. And it's really important and it helps you keep perspective. And I was reminded that when I was telling someone, some people that I know, that I went to Vermont to get recertified for my wilderness first responder certification, which is why I was up there. And two of my friends had never been there. Yet for me, it was just a quick trip. And it kind of reminded me that, it made me appreciate all the more the many things I have access to just because I'm fortunate to have a good job and a good upbringing from an adventuresome father. Doing a day trip to Vermont, actually it was 3 days, but running up, getting there late at night and setting up a camp in the night and stuff like that, that wasn't something that was just beyond the unbelievable. It was just yet another little adventure. And so these are all things that I have to remind myself of. Remember to keep perspective in my life and remember all the positives that I have and things that are special that not everybody has access to. But this isn't about me and my perspective, but rather it's about us and our perspectives. Specifically when when we're goal setting, I suggest that you put things in terms of comfort and happiness, not dollars or bucket list items. Dollars are very fungible, they're interchangeable, they're just a commodity. They really represent time in many situations. So getting 100 or 1,000 or even $1 million may actually bring the same or even decreasing happiness depending upon the circumstances. It's all in your perspective. I've been reading more in the book Build the Life You Want by Arthur Brooks and Oprah Winfrey, and so far it's recommended so far. I'm not super far into it. It's a little slow reading because I go back and reread a lot of the sections. But the current topic is what is happiness? And it's interestingly difficult to define because what it isn't is things. And it isn't just pleasure. Pleasure is something different than being happy. So now let's rethink our goals, our life purpose, and our vision. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance in all the world right now. It's unavoidable when parts of the world are in tremendous distress and parts of the world seem to be isolated from it. But this is where perspective is really needed. We need to keep a balanced perspective on our own lives and to recognize each little thing that we can be thankful for. That doesn't mean ignoring the bad that's obviously taking place, nor is there any reason to give up all hope. What it should do is sharpen our focus on what is good and bad, capture the good in our vision, our overall personal vision, and just as strongly, try to keep the bad from happening as a result of our own actions. There are many companies currently doing business as usual with murderous regimes. How could those blood dollars ever bring true happiness into someone's life? So the other side of perspective is not only recognizing what we have, but avoiding that which only brings false pleasure and not true happiness. And as we started with, one way to maintain perspective is to look at a situation in its simplest terms. Simplicity will clear away the uncertainty of complexity. So the biggest takeaway today to me is that perspective and clarity come from simplifying a discussion, not making it more complex. And with that, we need to take careful stock of our own life situation, our own goals, and make sure they're leading us in a direction that matters to us in a lasting and meaningful way. So, that's it for the evening. It's kind of short today, but it's really something that's been weighing on my mind, like I said, for quite some time. And perspective is being bandied around a lot these days, and a lot of it is kind of superficial or even purposely maligned, and not maligned, but just misrepresented, might be a better way. And really, perspective is pretty simple. It is looking at things in a balanced point of view, as I say, reducing to the simplest forms, and then really evaluating them in terms of your own life goals. And I hope you can see why perspective and looking with clarity is a tool not only for judging external situations, but also for improving our insight into our own lives. Your homework, always optional, think of a familiar situation that you've already considered. Now simplify it even further and re-examine it and see if it gives you a different perspective. Extra points if you decide to keep simplifying it until it's down to the fundamental singular issues. Chances are they will have a pretty clear meaning or value to you. So that's it for the evening. Of course, UKR7, that's a list of links to support the people of Ukraine, and also World Central Kitchen, wck.org. There, as I often speak about, as Jose Andres, and they do work throughout the world in disaster situations all throughout the world. And there's also links to Ukraine. I don't have anything for anything in the Mideast right now. Right now, that is in kind of such a situation. I think it would be really hard. It's even more tumultuous than Ukraine was in the early days. If something specific comes up, then I'll add that to the list. Although I have that URL already, ukr7.com, but I'll add it on to that if I find anything. So, as always, please remember the war in Ukraine and the ongoings in the Mideast. There's a lot of things going on right now that need a lot of fixing, quite simply. And one of the best ways, as we always say, to care for yourself is to care for others. And although I often bring up the war in Ukraine and now the unrest in the Mideast, even still, anything you can do to help somebody besides yourself and take your personal vision from inside yourself to outside into the world gives you a whole different perspective on the world. And I think in most cases really makes you feel a lot better about both yourself and the world in general, because you realize that you do have a part to play and you can influence somebody else in a positive way. So if you can enable, check out ukr7.com, wck.org, which is World Central Kitchen. Didn't actually put that up. There it is now, wck.org. Or if you don't want to go that route and make a donation online, next time you see somebody pass them on the street, to kind of look at you and say, hey, how's it going? Any little thing can make the world better for somebody. You never know how much of an influence you can have on somebody else. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along, and please hit that like button. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you've dreamed of, because that's the path of true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.